Hi, my name is Lauren, and I watched Chicken Run from the year 2000 for this assignment. It is a stop motion animated film by Aardman Animations in the UK, the people who do Wallace and Gromit, if you're more familiar with that. And it follows a group of British chickens who are desperately trying to escape the farm they live on, where their owners want to make them into chicken pot pies in a really, truly ridiculous looking chicken pie machine. It's honestly quite terrifying to look at. Um, this movie does a lot of things that were not happening in the late 90s, early 2000s. First and foremost, stylistically, it's a stop motion film, and Aardman specifically leans into a more claymation style, so all the textures on these characters are very different. Um, the silhouettes are different, and just the nature of stop motion, everything is physically made. So there's a lot of different real world textures that we are getting on different props and different pieces of clothing and things like that. The humor in this movie, so dark. It leans into something very dark. A chicken dies off screen to be made an example of. There is a segment where a chicken crochets a noose. They really do lean into something a little bit dark and a little bit like, oh, okay. But they also lean into a lot of like the slapstick, sort of almost Looney Tunes-esque a comedy of like continually failing and making all these contraptions to get out of the farm. So that is something that is similar to a lot of what we were seeing at the time. Like we see the segments in like things like Shrek and Toy Story a lot, where it's these like continuous bits of like cartoon violence essentially. You failed to do this thing in a truly cartoonish and ridiculous way. Narratively, the entire movie surrounds hens, so chickens who produce eggs and they're female. Therefore, a lot of what we're seeing is done by women. And specifically, like, the lead of this film is a female chicken named Ginger. And the reason they're able to get off the farm is via a lot of like traditionally feminine like tasks, like sewing, and they use eggs as like currency to get like black market materials. So it's a really interesting and kind of, I don't think maybe necessarily intentionally feminist take, which was really, really interesting to watch now as like a 20-year-old woman. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was like a thing that was kind of underlying in that movie that pushes kind of women and women's traditionally more feminine tasks into a positive light. Like it's very different than a lot of what was going on at the time. So Chicken Run's an interesting movie, and I think if you want an interesting time, you should watch Chicken Run. It's really lovely to look at visually. Like I think it's all the nuances are really great. So go watch Chicken Run.